Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to do a cheeky range review for the Death Guard. Now, you will notice that the non-specific Death Guard Chaos vehicles are not in this video. They will be in the Chaos Space Marines one, because they are not specific to the Death Guard. They apply to all of them, and we will cover the Demons separately as well. But we're going to start out with the man himself. We're going to start with Mortarion, because look at him. He's solid. It's still a great model. I will say, I do think that it suffers from the kind of over-complication that some of the Death Guard stuff has. Personally, I like pretty much all of it. Most of it. All of it. The things that I don't like are easily solved. They're not like, and when I say easily solved, of course, this is all subjective. You may like the things that I don't like. That's fine. I would personally get rid of the kind of incense burner things that he's got going on. The things hanging off the chains. I don't feel like they really add anything to the model. They don't quite match the motion of the model in certain ways. I just feel like it's an unnecessary addition. I think Mortarion by himself, with the wings, the armour, the kind of smoky, weird stuff coming from under his cloak, all of that adds up to an already incredibly threatening and kind of terrifying presence model-wise. I don't think the addition of the stuff with the chains and the little burners on the end actually add anything to him. I think they unnecessarily make his, like, the lower part of the model bulkier than it needs to be. And one of the things that I've always thought with Mortarion is that the face is gaunt. The wings are, like, threadbare and moth-eaten. He should be the figure of the Grim Reaper. I mean, he's got the scythe and everything. Those additional chains and those additional details do a lot to bulk him out, kind of from the waist down, which spoils that line of kind of like the gaunt Reaper figure. Of course, he's never going to look fully gaunt Reaperish. He's wearing a cloak with chainmail, and there's stuff coming out from the underneath, but that stuff by itself doesn't really do all that much to spoil that line for me. I think it is just the additional things kind of hanging straight. And I think that's the other thing as well. It's the fact that a lot of them are hanging straight. Apart from the ones affected by the little bloat flies, they are all pretty static, which feels odd because the rest of the model feels like it has some movement to it. So aside from those little details, aside from those bits, I still think he looks really good. There's loads of nice, horrible little details, like how mangled his face is. His kind of respirator thing looks all gooey and rotten and disgusting. The wings, as I said, look amazing. The fact they're so sort of moth-eaten and they've got like holes and little like cuts and stuff in them, they're properly gross. They suit him absolutely perfectly. Yeah, it is just those extra details that I don't think are really all that necessary. But you can get around that by just cutting them off. You can either cut them off, or in some areas, I think you can probably get away with just not gluing them on, to be fair. There's a bit that's hanging off some cloth on the end of a couple of them, but you could probably cover that up with a bit of green stuff, and no one would be any the wiser. Yeah, I think you could easily get rid of those bits if you didn't want them, and it wouldn't be too difficult, wouldn't be too egregious, wouldn't be too hard to hide. Because when you look at things like, look at things like the power pack on the back and the rivets and studs and spikes on the armour and his horrible, horrible face, those extra bits, for me, they're just not needed. Now, onto Typhus, who is, I struggle with Typhus. I really liked the old Typhus, and I do like the new Typhus, but with a caveat. I like him reposed. I much prefer him reposed. One of the things that was so good about the original model was the kind of slow, inexorable feel you got for him. It looked like he was walking towards you, and it did not matter what happened, you would die. That's all there was to it. Typhus was here. You've had it. That's it. You are not going to escape. You're not going to kill him. You're definitely not going to kill him. He is just going to wipe you and everyone else on this planet out, and you cannot do anything about it. I loved that just inevitable feel that the old model had. The thing I don't like about the new version is that it's been replaced with what I'm now beginning to class as Games Workshop's generic hero pose of weapon in the air. Look at me, I'm important. Essentially, that's what the pose is. It's the look how important I am sort of look to it, which doesn't suit Typhus's character for me, and it's not faithful to the old model in a bad way. You know, changes to the way things are posed aren't a problem, as long as you retain the personality of the character. I don't feel like this suits the personality of the character. Now, the context could well be that he's summoning the thingy, like the destroyer hive. I forget the name of it now, but he could be summoning all his flies out to go and wreck someone. But there are too many other models that share that pose, so it doesn't really read like that to me. Now, I've seen a few people, I say a few, I've seen a lot of people who have taken the scythe out of his raised hand, put it in his other hand, and been holding someone, like an enemy, up in the air, like choking them to death. That I much prefer. I think that looks more like the old Typhus. I don't know how easy it would be to repose that arm. In fact, we'll have a look at the sprue in a second. There is also quite a lot in the way of little kind of bugs and gribblies that I'm not entirely sure I'm a big fan of, but I believe those are pretty easy to get rid of if you want to. Like losing all the flies coming out of the smokestacks, I don't think is that much of an issue. Yeah, in fact, looking at the way the smoke is done, I think you could get rid of those really, really easily. Yeah, reposing that arm would be a pain, but I think you might be able to do it. You might be able to pull it off, even if you just brought the scythe down instead of holding it up. I think that would make a huge difference to the perceived attitude for me, anyway. Now, something I'm not going to complain about at all is the Deathshroud bodyguard. I think these guys look absolutely great. They look really good. There's a little bit of over detail here and there, but only on one of them, really. I really like this one. The addition of the hood over the helmet is a nice touch. The handle on the way the scythe is being held is really nice. Yeah, it's the right level of battered and manky, which is cool. The over detail on this one is the mouth in the center plate, which the main reason I don't like it is because it feels like it comes down a bit too far. It's in a slightly odd position, and the face as well, it is suitably boil covered and weird, but there's a bit of a lack of definition in certain places on that face, which makes it a little bit hard to read what's going on. Other than that, it's still a decent model. And to be honest, if you wanted to mess about with the stomach on this guy and smooth it out, with a bit of file work, I'm pretty sure you could do it. A lot of this stuff is literally things, if you don't like, you could just not stick on, or you could just do a bit of extra legwork in it to get rid. So it's not like a problem. It's just, personal preference, but it's the kind of personal preference that's easy to implement and change. But overall they are solid models. Require quite a bit of care and attention to detail due to just the amount of things like the chainmail and the little kind of holes in the armor and stuff, but when executed well, Death Guard look really, really good. Now, sticking with Terminators, the Blightlord Terminators, I have a weird, not 50-50, because there's 5 of them, and as such, that would not make any sense, but there are some of these I really like, and some I really don't like. I'm going to be that guy. I don't like the dude that looks like a fly. I'm sorry. I want to like it. I want to like it. They told him he could be anything, so he became a fly. I want to like the guy with the, fly stomach and the fly head and the actual fly arms, but I just can't. It just looks goofy to me, which is a problem. And not even, to me, that doesn't even look fixable goofy. It just looks goofy. And I want to like it, but I just can't. Contrast to that, I really like this dude. Again, perhaps the motif is being taken a bit too far. He's got the big flaily maul with the smoke coming out of it, and he's also got a little incense rebreather thing in his face, and he also has one in his kneecap. It's perhaps a bit too much of a repetition of the theme, but those aren't enough to make me dislike it. The addition of the extra exhaust coming out the side and stuff like that, there's some fun things in this model that I really like. And I think for all that perhaps like flame and smoke effects are overused at the moment, that's a really good implementation of them. Gives a nice sense of movement, and I've seen plenty of models using this weapon, and it just works. It just transfers to pretty much any other model. It's really good. Yeah, I do like that dude. Just, yeah, I don't know. I just can't bring myself to like the fly. It's too much. It's too much fly, I think, is the problem. It's too much fly and not enough Terminator. I want the fly scaled back by about 50%, and just more Terminator. That would be ideal. This one's perfect, and I have absolutely no issue with it at all. It's gross, it's creepy, it's horrible. It's got a brutal looking axe, and there's just the right amount of goo. Still looks like a functional thing that can do stuff, which the fly just doesn't. This sort of... I do like it, I just don't like the face. The grin is all sorts of not good. It's creepy and it's horrible because of the lack of eyes in the helmet, which on the one hand is a positive thing, but I just don't like the smile. If there was a way to... I mean, you could probably just green stuff a completely blank helmet, that would work. Actually, that would probably work, that would look alright. Yeah, everything else is fine. Everything else is fine. The gut spilling out and the chainmail at the top of it, it's very great unclean one, which is nice. I say nice, it's not nice, it's terrible, but you know what I mean. It's a good nod to it. Nice is not the word to use, is it? And this one, absolutely no problem with at all. There's nothing I change about this dude in any way. The helmet looks cool. The weird growth coming out the top I like. Again, nice brutal sort of chain axe going on. But there's nothing massively excessive or over the top. It's just a bit gross, which is spot on. Spot on for me. Now, Lord Felthius is another matter entirely. These guys are way too busy. They're way too busy for me. Felthius himself, I actually quite like, even though he is too busy, but I hate his face. His face is terrible. And I just can't bring myself to like the face, which is a shame. Because actually, despite how busy he is, there's certain elements of this model I really, really like. I do like the weird growths coming out of the top. That looks kind of cool. I do like the scythe with the like poison dripping off it. That looks cool. The diseased cloak of flesh is gross and kind of cool. I would probably get rid of the little tentacle things going off the leg, because I don't think that's necessary on top of everything else that he's got going on. The incense burner on the top, again, is fine. The gooey orb in one hand is a bit over the top, and I just feel like the face doesn't fit. I just don't feel like it properly belongs for some reason. It's a real... The Felthius and the Tainted Cohort is like a mixed bag, a real mixed bag of that is great, but that bit just isn't. Similar thing with this guy. I like the blade he's got. I like his old school Stormbolter. The armour is absolutely fine up to a point. I think if he didn't have the tentacles all the way across the very top of his armour, and then on the shoulder as well, and on the head as well, I think it would work better. I think if it was just missing a couple of tentacly bits, it would be a lot better. But as it is, it's a bit over the top. It looks like someone just went a bit mad with it. And it kind of loses the effect. It loses the shock value because there's just too much. This chap, absolutely no problem with. This chap, I think, works really well. If the fly Terminator was like closer to this in proportion, like if it had that kind of proportion of fly to Terminator, I'd be totally happy with the fly Terminator. I think this one is the cleanest in terms of design out of all of the Tainted Cohort. I think it works the best. It's the most cohesive with itself, which really all models should be cohesive with themselves, but they're just not in this lot. And this one too, similar complaint to the dude with all the pink gooey tentacles. It's not too bad, but there's just a bit too much going on. There's just a bit too much going on. Don't have them coming out of the gun. That looks weird. Have the gun be like rusted and chunks missing. That's fine. The implication with this guy is that the stuff growing out of him is growing out of his weapon, which also implies that he literally never puts his weapon down ever, which does not seem feasible. I don't know what the personal lives of Death Guard are like, but I'm assuming they can let go of their guns once, every 200 years or something. The implication is that this is spread over literally everything, which is fine until you take half a second to think about it, and then it's just weird as to why it would be on there. Yeah, it's just a bit too much. Again, a bit too much. But that's a problem with some of the Death Guard stuff, where it is just more complex than it needs to be. Okay, the actual Plague Marines themselves. Now, again, this is one of those mixed bag things where some of them look grand, some of them just look a bit over complex. So, these two. Your main dude there with the plague blade that he's got isn't too bad. He's not too bad. There's perhaps a bit much going on with the shin, having the face poking out of it. With I think it's a plague bearer face, isn't it, poking out of it? If you're gonna do the the growth coming out of the shoulder pad, the backpack, and his head, do those all the same colour, I would suggest, because it looks a bit weird and disjointed the way they've painted it there. I think probably either have the ones on the shoulder pad or the one on the backpack. Don't have both. You could probably just cut one off, which would make it look a little bit better. I quite like the tentacles sticking out the side. That's quite fun. I don't know how Nurgle it feels, though. It's specifically looking like octopus tentacles. For some reason, octopus tentacles always strike me as being more Tzeentch, but I don't know why that is. It's probably a completely random correlation that I've made there, but, it happens, doesn't it? The Icon Bearer, I really like most of that model. It is just, all it is just the horn out of the head. I like everything else about that. Yeah, you've got the teeth in the chest again, but it's not too far down. It looks more believable that way. The additional bits sticking out of the power pack, I really like that as just a trend in the Death Guard stuff. The icon's fine, no problem with the icon at all. The spikes on the shoulder pad, you can't complain about that. That's just a base chaos thing. It is just the spike on the helmet. That's the only thing I don't like about it. With these guys, really, I'm pretty happy with both. They're both pretty solid. The one with the classic kind of weird rebreather helm is cool, along with having that big canister on the backpack for the gun. I really like. I don't think it's overdone. I don't think it's overcomplicated. It's pretty decent. Same with the dude with the two melee weapons. I think it's not too cluttered an image when you see it the first time. They're both pretty strong, pretty decent. This, yeah, again, there's the part with the old plague bearer face sticking out the shin again. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe a bit much to have one sticking out of the shin and the power pack. Maybe don't put those together. Maybe it might be a bit too much going on there. But other than that, it's not too bad. It's decent enough. We get a nice swing around view of this guy, who I do like this one. The face coming out of the shoulder pad is weird and creepy. I feel like it looks a bit more. I don't know. I think I prefer that to the other one for some reason. I'm not sure why. Mind you, that's the way of things sometimes, isn't it? You look at it and you go, I don't like that. Then you look at something else that's similar and go, oh, I really like that. They're pretty much the same. Why? I've got no idea. Yeah, the little additions to the power packs where some of the vents have been replaced and some of the things have been turned into cables that go into other sections. I like all of that on these. And there are some nice details on these guys that isn't too over the top. You get a decent array of options and parts, and there is a bit of scope. There is a bit of scope for kind of adapting and changing things. Then you got things like the Plague Marine reinforcements, which actually I think all of these are pretty damn solid. I haven't got a complaint for these ones. They're not massively overcomplicated. They're not over the top. They're not excessive. The guy with all the growths may be a little bit much, but actually in the grand scheme of things, it's not too bad. And it's the same for the easy to build ones. Your kind of squad leader there at the front with the power fist and the blade is maybe a bit over the top, but the other two are pretty solid. The silhouette isn't too mangled. And the actual champion, the only thing that I dislike is the kind of cable inside the growth in his head, that's it. I like the rest of it. Even the little, like the Nurgling on top, the sassy Nurgling is the best model that they've made for so long. So good. Now the Plagueburst Crawler, I really like this thing. I think it looks really cool. It's recognisably from the mind of one who was at least part of the Imperium for a bit. But it has that kind of nice rounded aspect to it. It puts it more in line with I think some of the other Death Guard stuff. It's a cool looking vehicle. I do like the idea that it was actually, you know, it was Mortarion's brainchild, designed by Mortarion. The fact that the Architect Bombard now looks pretty much the same is actually, I don't know if I like that, to be honest. I think it takes something away from this one. Kind of implies that Mortarion just nicked the idea as opposed to came up with something himself, which you would assume all the Primarchs are perfectly capable of. But it does have its own personality. And it is a funky design. It just feels different from a lot of what we've already seen before. Which of course it is. But that's what makes it so cool. And there's lots of little detail, and I like the fact that even this hasn't escaped the kind of pockmarked, damaged aspect. And the fact that there's certain sections where it looks like the metal's been stretched to accommodate. The kind of almost skin-like, but not quite. Yeah, it's a cool vehicle. We also have the Myphitic Blight Hauler, which I believe is only easy to build. I don't think there's like a full fat version, but then again, they're pretty simple vehicles, to be fair. You've got the kind of the chassis of the what is it called, the bloat thingy, just with a different set of weapons on it and tracks instead of wings. That's it. The fetid bloat drone. It's pretty much the same deal. Not exactly the same, but there's definite similarities in design there, which you'd expect. But yeah, I like the Blight Hauler. It's a nice simple vehicle, but there's a good amount of detail, and it is super easy to put together. I think they've done it really well. The way that it's been designed is nice and simple, but it kind of leads to an effective vehicle. Similar thing with the fetid bloat drone, to be fair. I really like the lawnmower version. I think the lawnmower version is my favourite version. The fact that the lawnmower version exists, but the actual tracked Myphitic Blight Hauler doesn't have a lawnmower version, does make me laugh. It seems like such a weird decision, but it's creepy and it's weird, and like the fleshy underside of it is just gross. They're properly like horrendous vehicles, like appearance wise and concept wise even. I mean, look at it. Look at the flesh. There's flesh all over it. It's disgusting. It's just gross. It's just horrible. In the best way. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, let's have a look at some of the kind of characters slash you know what I mean. So the Icon Bearer. This is, I think, one of the best Death Guard models. Nice, clean, clear silhouette. Still clearly Death Guard. Still clearly Chaos. Got a nice bit of decoration here and there. The power pack is different. It's got that extra little exhaust on it. The bolter has got a bit of the classic Chaos railing, which is actually kind of funny in a way. There is some of that fleshy growth that you get, but it's not excessive or over the top. Got the iconic spike on the helmet. Kind of, I like the way the lens as well is like a single lens that sort of meets in the middle, almost like Sonic's eyes. The icon being sort of attached to the shoulder by chain, I'm not sure about, but it does give a cool visual. I mean, I suppose it means he's never going to drop it. There's no risk of losing the icon, is there? Because it's literally attached to him. Be hard pressed to get rid of that. The three little skulls on the helmet are ambitious, and I think difficult to pick out the detail of, really. But it's overall a really nice model. It's really nicely effective. Kind of similar for the Nauseous Rot Bone. The names just get silly though, don't they? Pretty clean, pretty not too overly complex. You've got the kind of syringes and the vials and stuff. You've got that horrible bone saw that he's got, which is actually a really nice touch, I think. His Narthecium there, which looks more steampunk and a bit more crude, which is a nice touch. Not again the face is maybe not my thing, but it does work for the model, to be fair. That's just me doing my not liking bare heads thing. Yeah, it's another solid one. It's not overdone. That's the key thing. Some of them are overdone, but some of them aren't. This one I never know whether I think it's overdone or not. This is the Foul Blightspawn. I can never tell whether I think they've gone a bit crazy with it or whether it's actually okay. The massive vat on the back, like that the power pack's been turned into, is really cool. The request to paint something like that on the side of it is ambitious, but there you go. Yeah, it is a cool model. There's just a lot going on. It's a complex model, not necessarily in its in the amount of like decoration, but just in the amount of mechanics that's going on. He's got the grenade in one hand. He's got that kind of tube, that hose of awful in the other. The big vat on the back is cool, and so is the big rebreather on the front. Actually, that's a really cool addition to it. Having those big mechanical like arms that go into his stomach. It's like, it's crazy and it's weird and it's difficult to make sense of it. I like it, but it's one of those things where I forget it's there, and then I see it and I'm like, how does that even does that even work? What does it do? Is it just broken? It's probably just broken, right? It's probably just not over designed in terms of iconography, just a mechanically complex model that makes it a little bit hard to parse what's happening with it. On the other hand, the Biology Purifier is, I think, absolutely fine. I think it's spot on. It's a nice model. It's fun the way there's this kind of like angel wing motif going on with it. Yeah, I do like this one a lot. I think it works super well. Not too complex in terms of iconography, not too complex mechanically. It's just creepy and weird. Creepy and weird in the best way. The Scribus Wretch, I do like him. He does look good. Good face on this one. I like the face on this one. I think it works really well. I like the fact that you've got the kind of tube going from the collar round into the backpack to be amplified. That's a nice touch rather than it being a separate thing. That's cool. The detail on the kind of paper that's on his little clipboard, again, I like that. I think that works really well. And his abacus, I can never pronounce that word, is also a nice touch. The fact there's lots of little skulls. Again, not too overdone, not too covered in iconography, works pretty well. Finally, we've got these lads. We've got Poxwalkers. I would have preferred zombies. I'll just leave it there. So they're fine. They're okay. But you just can't beat zombies. You just can't beat plague zombies, and Poxwalkers just aren't quite that. So they're fine. They're fine. No complaint other than that. I just would have preferred something else. But I'm not going to hold it against these lads. They're creepy and weird, and that's what you want. But yeah, zombies would have been nice. Anyway, let's go back to the big man himself. That was the range review for the Death Guard. A bit of a mixed bag. So far, these have been mostly just 100% positive, but like one or two models. This one has been a lot more kind of middle ground, grey area, 50-50. But I think overall, I do like the range. It just suffers here and there from a bit of over-design. But the things that work well work super well. And a lot of the stuff that I'm not a big fan of is stuff that's easily fixed. If you're not a big fan of some of the more kind of complex things, you can mess with them and you can dial it back if you want to. So it's not like I don't hate it, and I don't think it's one of those things where it's a case of I would never start Death Guard because there's just no way to do what I want with them, because there is. There's just a little too much on some of them, and the rest are fine. Let me know what you think of the Death Guard range in the comments down below, whether you share the opinion of overcomplexity, whether you think actually it works really well, whether you remember the older Plague Marines, which definitely did not have quite as much going on, but it was still pretty damn threatening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. There's the affiliate link, you know how that works. Nice way to support the channel if you would like to. I will see you for the next one.